everyone, I'm Reverend Jim Keat, the digital minister here at the Riverside Church, and this is The Word Made Fresh, the weekly video Bible study where we take a look at an upcoming lectionary passage and then talk about it and then leave comments about it, and you know the drill. Here we go. Now, this week we are approaching the end of Advent, and our text is Isaiah, once again, surprise. Before we jump into Isaiah, I want to tell you a story. Behind me is the ocean. This is the Atlantic Ocean. I'm at Myrtle Beach here in South Carolina, and the first ocean I ever saw was the Pacific Ocean over in California. I was 9 years old. My family took a trip to visit other family. We went to Sacramento and San Francisco and Monterey Bay. I think it's called Monterey Bay. And that was the first time I ever saw the ocean, let alone swam in it. I got to swim in the ocean. It was amazing. Up until then, all I'd seen are like lakes and ponds and creeks and streams and the Mississippi River. I was living in Iowa at the time. And the ocean was this whole other thing. It's huge. If you've seen the ocean, you know what I'm talking about. It's pretty big. It looks like the edge of the world pretty much, but it keeps going. This is not a flat earth conspiracy video. It's round, I promise. So 9-year-old me is at the ocean with my family, and I'm swimming in this salty water. Now the waves go one way, and I knew that. What I didn't know was that the undertow goes the other way. The waves come onto the shore, and the undertow is the water being pulled back into the ocean. It's this constant cycle. It's part of, nature and the tide and all that stuff, I guess. And I am a 9-year-old, scrawny little string bean, swimming in the ocean with my dad. Thanks, Dad. Now, the waves would come one way, knock me over. The undertow would go the other way, pull me under. But I was safe the entire time because my dad was there. No matter what waves or undertow were crashing or pulling around me, my dad was right there with me, making sure that I was going to be okay in the midst of all of it. It was great. Thanks, Dad. Okay, we'll get back to that in a second, but now let's pick up Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 10. Nope, Isaiah chapter 7, verses 10 through 15. Now you're going to recognize a part of this for sure, and the rest might leave you scratching your head a bit. We'll talk briefly about the head scratching part, and then we're going to dive into the part that you probably recognize. Here's what it says. Again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz. Ahaz is the king of Judah, saying, "Ask the sign of the Lord your God. Let it be as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven." Sheol, by the way, is the Hebrew word for hell, although it doesn't mean hell in the way that we understand it through kind of a Greek understanding or Greek mythology or Dante's Inferno or Gehenna and all that stuff. No, it's a whole other thing. We'll get into that in another video. Yeah, that'd be fun. We could do a video called What the Hell? All about hell. Coming in 2020. Okay, back to this video. Let it be as deep as Sheol or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, "I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test." Okay, now you might think Ahaz is doing the right thing here, being all cool, but really this is kind of, Ahaz being hypocritical and pretending to be good, but really Ahaz is playing his own schemes here as well. And then God says this. Then Isaiah said, "Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary mortals that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign." Here it comes. "Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son, and shall name him Immanuel. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose 2 kings you are in dread will be deserted." Now, let's talk about the head scratching part. 2 kings, land, what's going on here? Okay, so Assyria is coming closer and closer and closer, and Assyria is looking at Israel, and this, what was the other place? And Syria. And so those 2 countries, those are the 2 kings that is talked about at the end. Assyria's like making their way there, and spoiler alert, Assyria comes, takes over everything. And Ahaz has the choice. Do you join those 2 countries, those 2 kings, and try to fight Assyria? Or do you just kind of be like, I give up Assyria? Now, in the midst of that tension is where this whole conversation takes place. God is going to give Ahaz a sign. What should Ahaz do? Should Ahaz trust these 2 countries? Give in to Assyria? What does it mean to trust God in the midst of all of this? So the sign is a young woman with child bears a son and names him Immanuel. This probably sounds familiar because in the book of Matthew, you see the exact same prophecy being cherry-picked and dropped into the birth of Jesus. Now, Matthew is notorious for this. In fact, this is basically what Matthew's writing his whole book based off of. The Gospel of Matthew is written primarily to a Jewish audience, so it makes sense that Matthew draws on the Hebrew Scriptures. Matthew's looking at all these prophecies from the Hebrew Scriptures and saying, look, they're all fulfilled in Jesus. Now, one slight change you probably picked up on already. Isaiah says the young woman. Matthew says the virgin birth. Where did that come from? Now, that's the other thing too. Matthew's borrowing the virgin birth idea. What? Yep. Virgin births were a thing. Well, not really, but they were a thing used in stories about important people. If you wanted to make a person seem extra special, like extra divine or extra royal or extra just extra, you said, oh, they just weren't born normally. They were born of a virgin. Whoa. So Matthew takes that, puts it on Jesus. Matthew takes this prophecy from Isaiah, puts it on Jesus, and suddenly in Jesus we have a young woman, virgin maybe, giving birth to a son and naming him Immanuel. So that word Immanuel, let's narrow in on that word. Immanuel is a Hebrew word. It's actually two Hebrew words. El at the end is the Hebrew word for God, like Elohim and El Shaddai. And at the beginning, we have the Hebrew word with, well, a form of the Hebrew word with. Here, I talked about this in a recent episode of Be Still and Go, episode 16 of this current Advent season. Here's what I had to say.
Immanuel is a variation of the Hebrew word im, which means with. Now, any preposition will change depending on what you want it to mean. With him would be imo, with her would be ima, with them would be imam, and with us would be Immanuel. And when you put this version of the preposition next to the word for God, you get Immanuel, or literally, with us is God. For the record, this is pretty much the only thing I remember from my 2 semesters of Hebrew in seminary. Not bad for over 10 years ago.
Cool, right? You should listen to the whole episode after this video. The link is in the description. Click that, listen to that. There you go. Here's the thing. Whether you take this in the context of Isaiah or in the context of Jesus, this word Immanuel is just perfect. Isaiah, they're looking at Assyria coming closer and closer and closer, eventually taking all of them into exile, taking them away from their land. They are in captivity. In the time of Jesus, you see them back in their land, but kind of, because now Rome has taken over and is occupying their territory. So it's another exile of sorts. Both of these situations, where is God? God is with us. That's what Immanuel means. With us is God. God with us. It's like a 9-year-old at the ocean with waves crashing over you and undertow pulling beneath. Where's God? God is your dad who's right there making sure you don't fall over or get swept out to sea to get eaten by jellyfish and sharks and sea monsters. God is there when Assyria gets closer and closer and closer and takes you away. God is there when someone has taken what is yours and is occupying your land. God is with us. That's what this word Immanuel means. Isaiah started it. Matthew picked it up, dropped it into his world. And I think we get to do the same, to say in our lives, God is with us. So that's the question to land on and to talk about in the comments. What are the waves crashing around you and the undertow pulling beneath you? What is it? What's the chaos going on in your life? And what does it mean to know that God is with you? I mean, maybe it's debt that just keeps getting bigger and bigger, or loans that never seem to go away, or jobs that just slip out of your fingers, and unemployment or underemployment that seems like it's never going to end, or questions of calling. Who am I and what am I supposed to do and how do I actually start doing it? Or the existential threats of climate change that are all too real yet denied by too many people in positions of power. What's the chaos? What's the waves surrounding you? And what does it mean to know Immanuel, that God is with you in the midst of it? Okay, why don't you talk about that in the comments, and I'm gonna go take a look at the ocean. Wanna come? Yeah, you do. Come on, let's go. Let's go check out the ocean. Let's go fly a drone. What do you say? Yeah. So it turns out there's an airport over there and I can't fly my drone. At least not today. Okay, maybe next week we'll get the drone footage. But for now, go listen to the podcast. Okay, bye.